Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
For as long as one can remember, actresses in Hindi films have served as props to give purpose to the heroes. Playing the damsel in distress who needs to be rescued, the wronged daughter whose honor must be restored, or the love interest to match dance steps with. Emboldened by the evolving cinematic landscape, however, a breed of fearless actresses is seeking out more. The opportunity to play real, complex women.
तारीफ हजम नहीं होती है आपको?
Women who must do what it requires to take control of their bodies, their narrative, and their destiny. 2017 was a year we saw many such characters on the screen, brought to life through remarkable performances by female actors.
I can't believe it, तुम इतनी stupid कैसे हो सकती हो? तुम इतनी डरपोक हो कि तुम अपनी बेटी के लिए कुछ नहीं कर सकती। मेरी प्यारी।
In Secret Superstar, playing a young girl who finds the strength to chase her dream while living in constant fear of her abusive father, Zaira Wasim was a portrait of vulnerability, making your heart go out to her. In Lipstick Under My Burkha, Ratna Pathak-Shah approached the part of Buaji, a middle-aged spinster attracted to a strapping young swimming instructor, with both humor and empathy, molding her into one of the year's most unforgettable characters on screen.
हेलो, आपकी रातों को जगाने, आपके सपनों को सजाने, मैं सुलू।
Taking a well-aimed stab at comedy as the suburban housewife who becomes a late-night radio jockey in Tumhari Sulu, Vidya Balan imbued the character with genuine warmth and charm, but also just enough vulnerability to make her instantly relatable and sympathetic. In Shubh Mangal Saavdhan, Bhumi Pednekar brought strength and dignity to the role of a young bride-to-be who stands by the man she loves as he grapples with erectile dysfunction, never reducing her character to a victim.
एक शौच के लिए इतना गुस्सा?
In Toilet Ek Prem Katha, she brought a different kind of toughness as a new bride who walks out of her husband's home because it doesn't have a toilet. Playing a dancer who performs raunchy numbers for all male gatherings in Anarkali of Aarah, Swara Bhaskar channeled the anger, the fear, and ultimately the strength of a woman who refuses to cow down to men and do their bidding as if her profession somehow implies that she's available.
सबको लगता है हम गाने वाले लोग हैं, तो कोई आसानी से बजा भी देगा, पर अब ऐसा नहीं होगा।
The 5 leading ladies who delivered the strongest performances of 2017 spoke candidly about the sexist nature of Bollywood, the excruciating experience of watching themselves on screen, and weighed in on why the Hindi film heroine has evolved dramatically while heroes have remained largely one-dimensional when they sat down for the Actresses Roundtable. You know, ladies, what I think is particularly interesting about this lineup today, about this gathering today, is the sheer spectrum that we cover. From Zaira, who's only made 2 movies so far, to Ratna, who's really a veteran in the best sense of the word. The range and the talent at this table is staggering.
Cheers to
Thank
that.
you.
Let me start with you, Ratna. You've been making movies for a little over 35 years now. Of course, theatre has been the first love and the constant love in your life. Early on in your career, in your movie career, you started working with Merchant Ivory and Shyam Benegal and Ketan Mehta. And then you went away and worked a lot extensively in television, only to return a few years ago, and you've been working much more frequently now. Your husband, Nasiruddin Shah, joked to me recently that you've been having much more luck than he has with interesting roles lately.
Well, the time for the women has arrived. Finally.
What changed?
Many things. One, I was no longer young, so I was out of the heroine bracket, I guess. And then the field opens up quite comfortably, you know. It's when these poor things have to be heroines that they suffer. When you get to be an actress, then finally you say, what can you do now? Also, I never got any work to start with. Obviously, I wasn't good enough, I wasn't the right choice, so I just never got any work. And it surprised me a lot, I have to admit. And, you know, all these guys would sit around in my house, plan movies. And, you know, because every movie Nasir was in it, practically. Yeah. And they'd all sit around and say, bloody hell, there are no actresses in Bombay. And I'm sitting around serving them khana and chai and this and that and saying, hello, that's me, you know, me, etc. And that's how it was. But it was, in a way, a good thing for me. It gave me time to learn how to act. I think I was bullshitting my way then. So it gave me time to figure out. It gave me time to be sure of myself. And television, in the meanwhile, saved me from becoming a bore. Television introduced me to comedy. I tell you, one of the worst things that can happen to an Indian actress is she gets linked with the typical actress mood in this country. Tragedy. Which is tragedy or something sweet, something irrelevant, something relegated to the background. You know, we've all had to suffer that for years and years. Hopefully you and your generation won't have to. But suddenly, you know, I could be thought of in other things. Right. So that was great for me. It gave me time to figure out what to do. And I think maybe a few actually good filmmakers are coming around. You know, writing actually good scripts about actually real people in India. Not dreams that they had, you know, not peasants revolting when you have just finished IIM. Correct. You know, you don't know the first thing about a peasant, but you're going to make a movie about a peasant revolting, etc. So here are people making stories about what they know. They are making films coming from their own understanding, and therefore I personally find these films infinitely more watchable, tolerable, satisfying.
Sure. You know, between the five of you, the characters that you played this year have tackled ageism, sexism, misogyny, parental pressure, inequality, insecurity. Why do the women get to have all the fun at the movies?
I actually keep saying this, that, you know, all the reinvention, all the interesting, exciting stuff is being done by the women. And with no disrespect to male actors, you know, I really think there's nothing happening there. They've been playing the same roles for years.
All about vanity for them.
I'm glad we've gone through all the angst we have. You know, we have it to put it out there now, and in different ways, not necessarily in a really dramatic or in a way that's very tragic.
Exactly. You know, we don't need to be Wonder Women. We don't need to be Gal Gadot, who's doing everything that the guy would do, only she has a pair of breasts. You know, that's the only real difference. But we are telling our stories the way we are seeing the world. I think that's the important difference.
I think men also, I personally feel they don't really have the courage to experiment themselves because they have the set image. You know, they have to like look good and they have to be manly and macho. And I think women are just, we've gone through such a transition. Like, you know, even in my family, we've seen women go through things, go through different kind of emotions. We are aware of them. I don't think men generally are. That's why we enjoy playing these characters that are challenged, that are insecure, because we are aware of those emotions.
Which is why, you know, and since Bhumi said this, I thought it was great that Ayushmann Khurrana took up the role in Shubh Mangal Saavdhan. I was like, I love him so much more. Because tell a man you have you know, possibly have an erectile dysfunction, even if it's in a film, he's going to flip out.
And I don't think anybody else would have done it. He was so comfortable doing it.
So nice.
So I think that in general, in our country, we are at a time when, you know, public consciousness and public discourse is also kind of tending towards everyone being like, you know,
it's been a while now.
Right.
There are things that need to be said.
Sure.
And you can see, I actually can see that in the kind of reviews that are written about these films. I can see, you know, it's almost as if there was a section of the audience that was hungering to see their own stories on screen, and now you have it. Like, and I've seen that with lipstick. I saw, though it's in the Tumhari Sulu reviews, it's in Shubh Mangal reviews. So it's really, it was there for Anarkali, it was there for Secret Superstar.
True.
So I think that there's also, so it's very interesting. So it's happening within the industry and outside, in the audience as well. So that's really, that's amazing.
Vidya, it was all over the news recently that while you were promoting your film, someone asked you at a press conference if you intended to continue making women-oriented films or lose weight and play glamorous roles. Not only that, is that...
That's a lovely choice, Vidya. Really, tell us, what are you going to do?
What was your reply?
Please tell us how you decimated him. Tell us that.
I didn't really, it wasn't a press conference really. I just received an award and I came out very happy, and this guy asked me, and it took me a couple of seconds to even realize what he was saying, and I just turned to him and said, you know, I'm very happy with the kind of movies that I'm doing. I'd rather, if the only criterion to be in those movies is that I be stickly thin, then I'd choose this any day. But having said that, I said, you know, you probably, aapko nazariya badalne ki zarurat hai.
That's it.
And
it's such a myopic way of
and
thinking.
you know, I'm really, I realized that the body has been used to shame women so much, which is why I thought lipstick was so, you know, I remember messaging ma'am and I went mad, and everyone who saw it went mad, saying, oh my God, this is us out there, because it's, you know, we don't want to be shamed by our bodies anymore.
Sure.
We have bodies that we are proud of. We have needs that need to be satiated, satisfied. So, you know, what are we running away from?
Yes.
Even in that sense, I think we're a few steps ahead of the men who don't want to acknowledge that, never mind.
Zaira, your character in Secret Superstar has an abusive father who's really a ticking time bomb. While the actress who played your mother was, most of his rage was directed at her, you were in many of those scenes. How did your director prepare you for those scenes, and were they hard to shoot?
Yes, they were certainly hard, really hard to shoot. The whole film itself was really hard to shoot, not just to shoot, but even to listen to such a script was really heart-wrenching. When I heard the script, I was in tears. And, you know, I've said this in a lot of my interviews, that I could not connect to the character and I could not relate to the character, but it is because I've never seen it. I've never seen it happening in my family or in my friend's family or anywhere for that matter. And when I heard it, I realized that now I'm glad, and I take pride in the fact that I'm being associated with a film which is, you know, it's not just entertaining, but at the same time it's putting forth a message which is really important for the audience to see. And I'm glad that in this country, not just in this country, everywhere, people accept such kind of films. So it was wonderful working on the film, but at the same time it was very, very difficult for me to, not just me, for everyone to be in that character. And the director, he did not actually do much, but well, he worked on the script, and fortunately he gave me the film, and I'm really thankful to him for that.
But how were you prepared for that? Because I remember watching that film, and every time he walked into frame, you know something's going to happen. Was that just hard to shoot? Did you all have a lot of rehearsals? Were you prepared for just, you know, the explosions?
For certain things, yes. For certain things, no. Especially, you know, there are certain scenes where it's completely crazy. The father goes crazy, throwing dal and he's slapping the wife. We did work a lot on that, but, you know, we were just blocking the scenes. You know, we were figuring out the logistics and everything. We did not work a lot on the emotions because we wanted it to be spontaneous and raw, and they were scary. They were definitely scary.
But I must tell you, when I started watching the film, and Siddharth had watched the film before me and had come back, you know, saying, wow, great. I started watching the film and I started saying, you know, what's great about this? Because I react very badly to violence. I was feeling, you know, revolted, repelled, all of it at the same time. I didn't want to be sitting there. Thankfully, the second half happened, and then I began to feel like, oh God, you know, the world is a better place. But I can't imagine, you know, how you all must have shot for it. I kept wondering, because just that suggestion of that man
that's
even
true.
in the vicinity,
Correct.
and the audience was cringing.
The
you know?
mother, she had to hold back her horses. She's like, I'm not this kind of a person.
Yeah,
and
I
since
can
day one,
imagine.
she's been telling Advait that, listen, you will have to calm me down. I'm not such a calm woman.
American singer and now actress Mary J. Blige spoke about how she used to dress like a tomboy when she first entered the music industry to deflect unwanted attention from men. Have you ever felt the need to downplay your sexuality so that you don't draw unwanted attention?
You know, honestly, I've been working since the age of 17 and it's been 10 years now, and I honestly haven't really come across anybody that made me uncomfortable. So I think I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by men that are evolved and that think a certain way, but I'm sure that's not the case with maybe the rest of us on this table.
Yeah.
See, that's exactly what I'm getting to. Everything's not bad, right? Like because I constantly hear like people I crib about our society a lot, but then there's a side to it. There are men that I know, there are people that I know that do respect women, and I've been lucky to sort of know them.
Yeah, but you know, there have been instances where, you know, it's not just saying anything inappropriate or something inappropriate or going further. I think it's just in the look also.
Yes.
True. So many times
Yes.
I've been made to feel uncomfortable, but I'm the kind of, I remember this one incident very clearly where I went in for a television serial audition, and you know, I went in with my father. My father was sitting somewhere close by, and suddenly he just looked at my breasts and he spoke to me, and I said, what happened? And the moment I said what happened, he said, nahi, kuch nahi. So I said, nahi, aap yahan dekh rahe the na? So he said, nahi, I got through the audition. I actually got the serial. I chose not to take it up. I didn't tell my father at that time because I just felt that he would have felt terrible about it, and I had handled it on my level.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, through my career, I've realized that therefore, if you confront it immediately, you know, people just back off. And I always felt like, you know,
I tried that in Delhi once.
Yeah.
When I was in drama school, I saw, मैं तो बम्बई वाली कोई हाथ क्या करता है बिडू kind of, you know, I turned around and man, Delhi's not like that.
Yeah, maybe you're also.
Yeah, I got so scared. So yes, there is a very strong sense of fear that we cultivate, our mums cultivate in us big time.
Yeah.
I mean, I was told this always as a kid, nothing happened to me, touch wood, but it was a possibility always. And don't forget, we all sort of happen to be in a place where you can afford to talk back.
Right.
What if you can't?
Honestly, I think that it's not just violence, and I mean, of course, there is that threat of an assault situation or a molestation situation, and I somehow I've been molested on my set, like, or catcalled or eve teased on my set while a shot is going on, because I've shot in a lot of live locations. Maybe I've been groped during promotions of a film, like despite the fact that there are 100 security people around the bunch of us. I've been in situations where people will proposition you, because I think that the thing with being an actress is that there is genuinely a mentality out there, especially if you're an actress who's coming with no family name behind her, from just nobody knows where you're coming from, or nothing. It's this girl out there, and you make what you get, and then people will take their chances to see, okay, maybe she will respond, maybe how much will she respond. So I've had some really bizarre situations. I mean, some of them have actually been funny also. Like, that I've been in a situation where I've gone for a role, and there's this guy. Now I think back, I'm like, where all have I been? I've literally been to between Bandra and like Malad, Kandivali. I've been to every casting office, every office that is in Bombay. So this guy sitting, and he's like, ये जो पार्ट है ना, ये बहुत अच्छा पार्ट है, और क्या कर सकते हैं आप, क्योंकि ना हर रोल के 10,000 लड़कियां, अभी हर रोल के 10,000 लड़कियां. So I'm like, नहीं, you know, मैं actually बहुत serious actor हूँ और मैं बहुत ऐसे homework करती हूँ, वो सब करते हैं, आप और क्या कर सकती हैं आप? So I'm like, नहीं, मैं character work नहीं, वो सब करते हैं, आप क्या कर सकती हैं? So I have like saying things like, मेरी memory बहुत अच्छी है, मेरे को dialogue याद हो जाते हैं, I've come down to मैं थोड़ा बहुत बंगाली बोल सकती हूँ, मैं horse riding भी कर सकती हूँ, मैंने एक बार sword fighting, he's like, मैडम सब करते हैं. So this has gone on 5-6 minutes. Now I've run out of what all I can do. So finally I was just like,
and the penny hasn't dropped
no,
yet.
I was an idiot at another level. So I used to think that somebody will be like, will you have sex with us for the role? But it doesn't work like that. So then finally I was like, देखिए सर, अगर आप ये पूछ रहे हैं कि क्या आप सेक्स करेंगे ये रोल, तो नहीं कर पाऊंगी. अरे नहीं मैडम, वो तो आपके ड्रेस को देख के पता चल रहा है नहीं करेंगी.
Really? That God!
It ended in 5 seconds that meeting. So I've been in bizarre situations.
Suffice to say, you didn't get the role.
I've been in a situation where a director of a film where I had like 50 days of shoot left has come drunk to my room being like, okay, can I get a hug? And this is after weeks of like messaging and all this. And that is the worst. Because, you know, you don't want to lose the part. You want to be in the film. You know, and at that time I was pretty young. I didn't have a team or like a boy or a security or nothing. And then I realized why actresses took their mothers with them to outdoor shoots. I was like, Mummy, Mummy.
Yeah, but you know, like Bhumi said, I think in that sense, I've also been extremely fortunate.
Same here.
And like ma'am said, you know, I come from a background where I could speak back, and there I had nothing to lose. If you didn't give me the role, too bad. But you know, for the first time I've actually heard someone narrate something like this. Otherwise, it's hearsay. You know, someone say, "Pata hai isne kya kiya?" But I'm actually very shaken by.
How does one make sure that Zaira's generation doesn't have stories like that today?
We have, I do. I mean, unfortunately, not from set, fortunately, very, very fortunate, not from set, but I remember that I was in 7th grade, and I used to, 7th or 8th grade, I used to go to tuitions with my friends, and I used to travel in a bus every day. If you take a walk, it takes you half an hour, but if you go in a bus, it'll take you around 10 minutes. And I was in the bus, and I could feel a hand groping me, and I turned out there's no one. I thought maybe it's just somebody because the bus is really crowded, so maybe I should just ignore it. And then it happened to me again and again and again and again. I hear somebody breathing in my ear, and it's coming closer and closer and closer. And I pushed him, and I just ran out of the bus, and I cried for an hour. Sat down and I cried for an hour. The next day, I took another bus, and it happened to me again. The third day, it happened to me again. Then I came back home and I told my mother, listen, I'm not going to go to my tuitions. Then I did not have the courage to tell her what happened. So she's like, what happened? I was like, I'm not feeling too well, and I skipped my tuitions for a week. Then my friends tried to encourage me to join again, and a week later I went back, and then I started walking. From my home to the tuitions, I walked for a year. It used to take us like half an hour to go, then half an hour to come back. So, and it has happened to me so many times, and to so many of my friends. It's really unfortunate, and ever since that day, I've never traveled in a bus again. So it's...
Well, I guess the mums who are out there listening to this, maybe it's the way we bring up our boys.
Sure. I completely agree with you. Yes, it is.
It's become...
I mean, why do we do that? Why do we let boys behave so badly?
It's this
What is it? What kind of love is it?
Raja beta attitude.
Hak hai.
Yeah, it's an entitlement.
You know, you have the right to get the woman you want the way you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, because mom
To
has
do whatever,
given you that extra roti, and that acha koi baat nahi bacha, tu so ja, abhi tujhe nahi kaam karna, whereas girl has to do, etc. You know, at every step of the way that the male child is a privileged being is reinforced.
But ma'am, they've also seen their mothers being abused day in and day out and not really taking a stand, you know. I think in my case, I remember this one instance where my father was extremely rude to my mother and she gave it back to him. You know, so I have seen that at home. So I automatically have that sort of voice. But it's really unfortunate that in our families, I mean, women don't really, they don't really stand up for what is wrong. So what you're saying is that it's the mothers, like, you know, every time, like whatever
Excuse
cases.
me, it's not the mothers.
I mean, please, the family, the parents.
It's the patriarchal system.
Okay.
Let's name it for what it is, please. Let's not beat around the bush. It's patriarchy. And we have internalized it so much. Women particularly. We have internalized it. नहीं कहते कि औरत की सबसे बड़ी दुश्मन होती है.
But you know, honestly, I think that, I mean, of course, that is a very important sort of thing. But my thing is always that, going back to what you said, that how do we make sure that she doesn't have to deal with something like this, at least at the workplace. And I think that change is only going to come from us. It's like every single time that something like this happens, we have to react. I've begun to find that, or came to a point, and I'm from Delhi, I've been to school, I've been to college in those buses, and so I've had the, pretty much what everyone's in that sense growing up has been. And I began to find that I have become complacent. I'm like, it's okay, he's just rubbing, who's going to react? I'm getting late for class. That is the worst thing to happen, that you become so inured to it yourself that you're just like,
When protest becomes an effort.
You have
every
to react
day you have to fight for
time.
everything. बड़ा मुश्किल होता है इस तरह का resistance maintain करना.
It's the same thing with the casting couch. I always, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, it's not a problem. I'm not trying to put the onus on the victims, none of that. But I'm just saying, and going again, what you said, lose the part, but say no. It's only when men realize that it's not gonna fly, that offer and that proposition will stop.
And put your mobile phones to good use. This is a time when, I really think that this is what mobile phones should be used for today.
And I think people need to, especially parents, need to pay more attention to what their boys are doing out there, because most of them are just, you've just given them the freedom to go anywhere. What are they doing outside?
Who
are they? They're out. They're not. I remember every day I was being followed by random guys to home every single day, and they're just on the street. They're not doing anything. They're not going to school, tuition, anything. They're just sitting and chilling and maybe smoking a joint or something.
We have the youngest population in the world.
Right. Yeah.
And look what we are doing to our young. They are malnourished, they are undereducated, they are unskilled, they have no jobs, and they have a ugly patriarchy which gives them the right to do anything. I mean, this is a recipe for disaster.
Shefali Shah has just done a short film called Juice, which is so lovely. It's a situation that you've seen play out in so many households. And that little moment when that girl is called to serve the elders in the family, the boys are sitting around playing, that's okay. And you realize sometimes that, of course we see the change. We are in a much better position, but how many of us are in a better position is a question I think we must ask.
And therefore everyone who decides to act in a film, every woman who, I'm sorry to be judgmental, but every woman who decides to act in a film like Dabang, where she is made a complete, object of lust and more or less nothing else. I mean, those women also need to stand up and say, no, I don't feel like doing a part like this. Particularly since I've got mummy and daddy to bankroll me, at least at this time I won't. Silk Smita didn't get a chance to say that.
Right.
Yeah.
Her family depended on her doing what she had to do. My family doesn't depend. So why am I not at least standing up?
We need to become more responsible. I completely agree, considering the kind of impact we have on people, on the public. We need to know, because every time you're smacking a girl's butt, there are going to be 10 boys in a small little village in India doing the same thing, and they think it's okay. So
Shammi Kapoor has been doing it for years, and all the girl says is, you stupid. And that's the end of the conversation. Haven't you seen? You stupid. And she goes stamp with her little heel-covered foot. And that's it.
But actually, I think that and I think a lot of that also has to do with the fact that the audiences, this conversation is happening not just here, but with the audience.
Offline as well,
When Ranjana was coming out, and I remember telling Himanshu that it was the poster launch or something, and there was a journalist who said something about stalking. He said, look, the trailer looks like you're glorifying stalking, and nobody answered, so I said well, no, I don't, there's that. And then I told Himanshu, you know what, you better watch it, because you're going to get this question a lot. And then once Ranjana came out, it was the only thing anybody talked about. I mean, of course, there were other things and good performances and all, but this became such an issue, right?
Yeah.
And I remember talking to Himanshu about it and saying that, and then it was a big question for me, because everywhere I would go, people would ask me, how could you do Ranjana?
Correct.
How could you do Ranjana?
You around,
and they were hitting me. And I was like, honestly, the hitting part with Bindya was actually not in the script. It happened when we were all fighting, because Dhanush and Zishan would be like, you were resisting so much that our instruction was that we have to take you there. And because you were not doing it in the scene, we had to carry you. But no, more than that, I remember thinking about it again and asking myself that what was there something I didn't see in the script, you know, and then watching the film, and then for 6 months Himanshu and me only spoke about this. So the next time that when he was writing Tanu as Manu Returns, he was like, I'm only thinking about gender in every scene. I'm not thinking about anything else.
Which is, you know, when I saw Golmaal, which is one of the biggest hits this year, I actually loved the film, and I came out saying at least it's not sexist.
Yes.
You know,
We
which
have to
is
be grateful for
small mercies.
Yeah, you know, because invariably in those big films, especially the comedies, you're poking fun at the woman.
And constantly in the ugliest possible way.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this is a silver lining then. If Golmaal has gotten rid of it, then
No,
this
it
may
is,
bode
it
well
is.
for big
And
budget
I
films.
actually, loved the fact that, you know, I kept saying, is there something, I'm enjoying the film completely, but is there anything? And I said, no, there isn't, which is so great.
Yeah, at least it was clean.
Yeah.
Zaira, when I met you 2 months ago, you said that you hadn't made up your mind whether you wanted to move to Mumbai and pursue acting professionally. What is it that you most like and not like about acting?
What I like is definitely that I become somebody else. I have the liberty to, you know, get into a character which I'm probably not. And the worst part is, not the worst part, but maybe I'm not ready for it now, is the vanity that comes with it. I don't think that I'm the kind of person who can handle it, and the kind of pressure it has put on me personally, I think that I'm not ready for it.
To look a certain way, to dress a certain way, that kind of pressure?
Yes.
Do you have any tips for her?
I mean, honestly, I've gone through like a transformation, because that's what people call it. And honestly, I don't personally think I've gone through any transformation. I've just dealt with each day as it comes, and I think you'll just manage it.
Yeah.
I don't listen to anyone. You know, I remember after Dam Laga Ke Haisha, people were like, nobody really body shamed me because my film said it all. So nobody could really question anything or call me fat, moti, and all of that. But they would be like, you know, wannabe hai, bhenji hai, people within the fraternity as well. And I was like, listen, just because I'm overweight, that doesn't mean I'm a bhenji, you know, like, so I just ignore them. And today it's the same people. Yesterday I got awarded for my style, and I stood up and I was like, what? I said, really? I said, okay. I thought I was just attending.
Right.
I thought I was just attending, right? And I was pleasantly surprised. So people are very fickle-minded. I don't think you should take this seriously at all.
No, it's not about it. No, it's just that I'm not ready for it now.
No, you're absolutely.
Sure.
But you know, can I
Eventually.
please say that you've got the right thing?
Yeah.
Because if you are able at this age to
process
be
it.
aware of that this is happening to you, that's amazing. You know, someone said to me that the thing with acting in the film world is that there's less of the act and more of the ting, and that's basically
That's
what you're
such a
saying.
lovely thing.
It's true. So if you're mindful of it now, then I feel like you'll know how to deal with it as you grow up.
But
That's
I also
amazing.
think times are changing, right? I mean, see all the roles that we've done. Our success isn't dependent on the way we look. It truly is just the roles
No, it's
we
not
do
just
and
the
the way
way,
we perform.
especially, I mean, when you speak in a interview, even when you're interacting with a normal person, you get judged, and it's annoying, because I earlier had this habit of reading comments under my interviews or anything that is being posted about me online. I had this habit, and you know, there are bad days and there are good days. There are days when I'm not in a good mood, and you know, maybe I would say something which might be offensive, and people are like, "Arey, she's arrogant," and that really bothers me.
Right.
That
Instant judging.
this problem
Someone
that
Instant judging.
that
Today,
bothers me.
whether or not you're an actor, you'll get judged.
Exactly.
So you may as well do what you want to be
do.
doing, and don't bother about the judgment. It's not easy, but you know, I still haven't developed a thick skin. It bothers me, so I don't watch anything, I don't read
which is-
anything, I don't
yeah,
listen
I
to the
even stopped
radio.
doing that.
It's the wrong thing to say after Tumhari Sulu, but I don't, you know, and I'm much happier for it. If I've given an interview, I know what I've said in the interview. Na? Now people will use different words maybe, or they'll misquote me. Ab wo pad ke to form an opinion about myself or to see what people have to say about that, it's pointless.
No, what's the funniest is that you start getting trolled by other actors' fan clubs.
That's true.
You know, it's ridiculous. I can't really have an opinion because I'm going to have some superstars fan club who's going to start thrashing me on Twitter, and it gets nasty. So
And also stalking. I get stalked a lot. Like, my fans know where I live. They know my email address. They know my iCloud account. They know everything, and it's annoying. I mean, I get calls at 2 in the night, that's I don't
feel like we need
appreciate
to start
that.
by changing all your accounts.
I don't appreciate that.
sure.
That's not something I would like. You know, I received some letters and they're creepy. They're really creepy. It's not cool. Stalking is not cool.
I really feel bad that you have to go through this.
Yeah, really. At 17.
How sad is that? But I'll tell you, in spite of it all, what somebody told me when I was younger made a lot of sense. Don't think of acting like a short-term thing. It's not something you're going to do before you get married and settle down. I want to be an actress forever. I want to act until I can stand up and be on stage or in front of a camera. I enjoy the process of acting, and that's what interests me. So everything around will fade, I will grow older, things will change, etc. But my desire to act is not a temporary thing. And it's not dependent on whether I'm successful or not.
Yeah,
That I think has given me a great deal of strength. Because I've gone through years where I just didn't get any work. And that can be really soul destroying.
Unbelievable. I remember when I was shooting Secret Superstar, there was one scene, and you know, when I say that I'm socially awkward, I mean it. It's not something I say because I'm a crazy teenager who keeps on saying I have social anxiety and all of that. I genuinely had it. And while I was overcoming it, there was a time where I had to shoot outdoor, and I was throwing a bag and I was on a full rant. I don't know, I was doing something and there were people around me and I could not act. But then it hit me that 1 second, they're not going to see this process. What matters is that what they will see on screen, and I need to be in that zone, and that gave me that
There you go.
kick.
Yeah. She's an actress. She's going to
I think you're
last.
sorted, bro. I think you're sorted.
She's just talking about it just now.
You're going to be fine.
Ratna, you've said that when you first received the script of Lipstick Under My Burkha, you were intrigued that your character was learning swimming, and something that you found very poetic. Incidentally, you didn't know swimming and you thought it was a great way to confront your fears. Did you? And did you?
No, I didn't. I didn't manage to do anything about my fears. I didn't manage to learn. But it was fine because I was supposed to be awkward in the...
Well, even I had to learn how to swim for Dangal for one scene.
Handstand in Nilbate Sanata, remember?
But that I know how to do.
Yeah, but
I don't know how to swim.
I was like, wow.
But it's very embarrassing. I didn't manage to learn how to swim. I swim in a sort of fashion. I splash around, so I'm okay.
I think that's the beauty of being an actor. You learn so many skills, right? It's just an education that you can't get otherwise.
And in such a fun way.
And it's so like you just want to do it. I learned how to ride a bike, and I wouldn't even sit on a bike, and it was just, you really grow.
But to all of you, have there been films and roles that have forced you to face your fears, or perhaps go through a catharsis?
Oh yes. Oh yes. But not films. A play that I did by the name of Don Juan in Hell. And this was long ago, 84. And it's by Shaw. So the language therefore is George Bernard Shaw. And I didn't speak English well at all. And I couldn't hear myself. I said V instead of W and W instead of V. I just couldn't hear it. I didn't know about the, where is the used, where is a used, where is an used. And I went to an English medium school, so I thought my English was just fine. And everyone told me that this is, particularly Nasir and my director, Satyadev Dubey, they just went after me. I couldn't hear it. And I thought that they are just picking on me because I'm the junior around here. Then somebody recorded a show, and I heard that. And then I said, oh my God, this is what they've been telling me. How? So that was, I think, my first step towards figuring out how to act, how to speak, and how to make sense while you speak, so that the words sound like your own words, not like dialogue. So that was a huge, and it's taken me like bloody 20 years to figure it out. I'm a slow learner, obviously. But that has been a huge. Theatre does great work for you as an actor. Much learning takes place.
I think through my films, I've just sort of started to respect what a woman I mean, I don't want to sound incorrect, but you know what a mother's job is. Not what a mother's job is. I think my respect for my mom just went like 10 folds, because you know I was the kind of kid who would literally walk out of her jeans and walk ahead, and I'm not proud of it. And through my films, I've changed tremendously as a person. I've become extremely responsible, like, you know, just preparing for those films, doing jharu, bartan, cooking, everything. Like now I realize that every time the namak was coming, I would like throw a fit. I know the kind of effort that goes into making that sabji now, you know. So I think I've really grown up as a person doing my films. Like, it's a great learning.
I think that for me, in terms of like cathartic, but also it was catharsis, but also it was, I feel like a dangerous closeness or getting into a space that was, it happened twice. Once was Ranjana. It happened in a different way in Ranjana because I was going through, I think that it was, you know, Bindya was a character, apart from all the stalking and all that, but she was essentially a character who has a lot of love in her. And a lot of like the kind of innocent, idealistic belief in love that I don't think we see, and I'm quite a cynical person.
Okay.
And I think I was also going through a breakup. So it was a very odd like time for me to play a character that had so much love and so much, and she's a very religious character. She goes it was in the script कि हर Monday वो झाड़ू लगाती है बिस्नाथ जी में, and I'd never been to बिस्नाथ जी. So I actually remember going to the temple with Dhanush, and Dhanush is a Shiv Bhakt. So it was, I had a lot of very interesting, and I actually started going to temples after that. Like I've developed a very, and I'm still not religious, but I think it really, like I think I always approached everything in a very intellectual way and maybe a little arrogant kind of way. Okay. I think that was a very humbling experience to play Bindya. That was one. And Anarkali was a very, I think that I got jaundice the next day of when the film finished filming.
Wow.
Next morning, I was yellow. Like it was, and
waiting
it was a
for
long
you to finish
sketch. Like it was, she's a very angry character. It took me 1 year to get out of that anger. I have gotten into 2 fist fights on that set. I'm ashamed to be saying this. Like one was somebody threw chai in a spot boy's face. So, and I happened to be there, and I now know why they say rage is blind. Because I don't have any visual memory of what happened. And then on the last, and I'm not proud of it, but it took me a year to get out of this, even if it's a righteous anger, you know, so if it's even a hamare haq ki ladai wala anger, but
you need to be able to
essentially it's anger. And you have to know how to, you know, what are you getting into?
Sure.
So then I, like those two was, and I actually had to then, you know, kind of try to work out a method where you're not actually getting, you know, so into and all this. Like I was possessed in Anarkali. Like I was really possessed. I must have been a pain in everyone's ass. So it was very, I mean, it was odd.
You're of course presuming that you're not a pain in the ass otherwise. Of course.
See, this is why I trust you to be honest with me. This is why I will always come to you for feedback.
I think I didn't know whether I could do comedy, and I finally think that I can, thanks to Tumhari Sulu. So that's because I've done comedies before, but I was always, you know, I was not the one with the lines, or I was only like saying, you know, just so giving funny reactions maybe. I've enjoyed this process so much. It's one of the happiest experiences for me as an actor, because every other role I've done, and not taking away from any of them, but I knew I could do it. Okay. This one I didn't know I could do. So, you know, when you discover something about yourself, I think it's so joyous.
Yeah. Zaira, any of the 2 films?
You know, both the films, I'm just 2 films old, and both the films, the journeys have been bittersweet for me.
Okay.
For Dangal, I had to wrestle and I had to fight myself every day, from waking up to fighting to standing on this sand which was so hot I couldn't bear it. And like nobody had faith in me. I'm being honest, nobody had faith in me that I would be able to wrestle. I was so bad at it. And when it comes to Secret Superstar, I genuinely have bittersweet memories about it, because I remember crying every day on the set. I don't know what it was, but my love for it, or what was it, but I've taken so much from that film. You know, when I took up that film, when I read the script, I wanted to do it. I don't know how I was driven to the decision that I'm going to do it. Was it the actor in me ekdam achanak se it was, you know, jaag gaya ki I know I want to do this? Was it challenging for me, or was it that I'm doing a film which is, you know, it's putting a social message out there? I don't know what it was. While I was working on it, I became a full actor. I went into the acting zone where I became really, I don't know what happened, what got into me. But I remember it, you know, I've realized and I've discovered so many things about me. And one the biggest takeaway for me as an actor and even as a person was my weakness and my strength as a person, even as an actor, was conviction. I discovered my weakness and my strength is conviction. If I'm not convinced about something, I'm not going to do this. And if I am, I'm going to do my best.
Oh, she's 17.
Yeah, really.
Are you pulling our leg? You're not 17. You're 77.
My God, to have been able to process it, articulate it.
Well, the future's bright.
Yeah, really.
Lovely thought to end on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for really opening your hearts. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for those incredible performances this year. Each of you, really the best performances this year. Thank you for bringing so much joy into our lives with such fine acting. Thank you very much for being here today. Thank you.
I hope all you writers, directors are hearing this.